Republicans tear into Biden's ATF pick for bungling definition of assault rifles, dodging questions about Hunter Biden lying on his background check, and comparing gun owners to Tiger King in car crash Senate appearance.
Oh.
Yeah, David Chipman was confronted by Republican senators during his confirmation hearing. They excoriated the nominee on his definition of assault weapons, refusing to commit to investigating Hunter Biden and comparing gun owners to Tiger King. Chipman deflected before saying an assault weapon is, quote, any semi-automatic rifle capable of accepting a detachable magazine above the caliber of .22. That is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. This would include a .223, which is, largely the AR-15 round. I would say .556, but, Senator Lee brought up Chipman's April 2020 comments mocking first-time gun owners in the midst of a panic at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. Said at the time, quote, they might think that they're diehard ready to go, but unfortunately they're more like Tiger King, putting their family in danger. This is what I imagine like Darth Vader would sound like, the Empire in Star Wars. Give up your weapons, you morons. And then, just taking them all away so that people can't defend themselves.
I think that they're going to do everything that they can to get every kind of weapon that they can. That's why the guy's not using any definitions. He wants to leave the door wide open as possible. But at the same time, what happened in Texas recently?
Constitutional carry.
Constitutional carry. Did I read it was state number 21 or 22 or something like that? I mean, that is growing. That's a trend I can get behind.
Did you know in the 80s we had less gun rights?
Did we really?
Yeah, that's crazy. I was researching the constitutional carry. It used to be in the 80s, most states were may issue for concealed carry. That means they could deny you. Then most states are shall issue, meaning they can make it difficult, but they have to give you the right to keep and bear arms. There's a lot of Supreme Court rulings on this. There's a few jurisdictions, but I think Maryland is the only may issue state right now. My favorite thing about it, though, is they have this map of the country. And it says, there's a color code. It's like green means constitutional carry, and there's tons of states. It means you can walk into West Virginia, just have a gun, just walk around. You can't brandish it at people, obviously, but you can walk around with big guns and do whatever you want. Well, do whatever you want figuratively. I don't mean literally do whatever you want. I mean, you can walk around and do things like go to the store, and unless someone complains. Then you got the blue states. The color code says blue shall issue. Then you have the yellow may issue, and then the red. So I think Hawaii and New Jersey are red, and it says may issue, parentheses, in practice won't issue. Wow. So places like New Jersey, I remember because we were there. We were in the Philly suburbs. You try to apply for a gun, and they'll say, what do you need a gun for?
Isn't that what Heller in D.C. was all about? Because that used to be the application in D.C. It used to be explain your reasons for needing a concealed carry. Now it's like, if you want to tell us, you can tell us. But they can't use it as a condition anymore. I thought that was a Supreme Court decision. Shouldn't it have struck down those ones in New Jersey and Hawaii in that case?
I don't know. They act like they're may issue, but they're no issue.
Yeah.
So I went to, maybe that's it. Maybe they're like, oh, okay, we're may issue. We're gonna issue, but they don't. Mm-hmm. So right. I was told by everybody, in Maryland and New Jersey, you basically will say, here's my reason for needing it. Oh, I deal with large transactions. I run a business. I'm high profile. Maryland apparently will say, okay. New Jersey apparently will be like, nah, can't do it.
You can't even pump your own gas in New Jersey.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, you pull up and they do it for you.
So if you were like, I want to defend myself against potentially tyrannical government, they won't give you a gun?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that.
Probably not.
If you say exercising my Second Amendment rights, they tell you goodbye.
What
later.
The heck?
Yeah, dude. But this is the crazy thing. This ATF guy, it's interesting we see these stories, the stupidity of this man. And the sheer, what's the right word? Villainous? I mean, the guy looks evil. He looks like if I was casting a Star Wars movie, I'd be like, that's the Emperor guy. That's going to be working for the Empire. The way he looks, the way he talks, the duplicitousness.
The permanent frown on the sides of his mouth are downward, like Mitch McConnell. Some people have that, and it's
he needs a mustache though, so he can twirl it while he's doing these hearings.
Look,
I'll take all their guns.
I definitely, as I encounter more and more people and have greater life experience, I come to understand that IQ and intelligence is definitely on a curve. There's a distribution of all these things. There's plenty of stupid people out there. I'm afraid to continue to apply stupidity to what is actually malice.
Right.
That guy knows what he thinks an assault rifle is.
Yeah, but he won't say it.
Right.
Like you said.
Right. He's not being stupid. He's actually being very calculating and smart about it.
There was one point, I think 2 years ago, where they said an assault weapon was any weapon that was semi-auto and took a detachable magazine. So look what he's saying, right? Did he say? He said rifle in this instance, so he's not talking about handguns. But they actually included in the Democrats included in one of their bills that handguns would be an assault weapon, like a Glock 17. I remember I went down to the March for Our Lives and I asked people. They were like, ban assault weapons. And I said, do you know the definition of an assault weapon? Like, honest question. I'm just doing interviews. And they were like, yeah, like the AR-15, these rifles. And I said, are you aware that current legislation proposed by Democrats would ban a Glock 17? And they'd say, oh, what is that? That's the handgun. I'm like, that's what police use. I believe police use a Glock 17. It's a very common handgun. And they were like, no, that's not right. And I'm like, well, that's what you're advocating for right now. I saw one lady holding a sign that said ban assault rifles. And I was like, what do you mean by ban assault rifles? And she's like, I don't think assault rifles should be, people should be able to go and just like buy them. And I was like, but they can't. It's like they're heavily restricted NFA items. It's already, possible to get. They don't really make them anymore. She didn't know anything about it. So she just like folded up her. She's like, oh, I didn't realize,
You disrupted the protest by your like
journalism,
actual, just regular questions. And
yeah,
Socratic method.
I mean, look, obviously when you go to these protests for gun stuff, I think most people they know these people have no idea what they're talking about. And so you can approach these people like, hey, you're really dumb. Tell me why you're so dumb and look stupid for the camera. But I'm not going to do that. I was just like, I noticed you wanted to ban assault rifles. Well, I'm curious. The National Firearms Act basically banned all assault rifles as defined, by the ATF select fire rifles, however you want to describe it. So these are basically heavily restricted, and you typically don't find them in gun shops at all anymore. So I'm not sure. Like, did you want to get rid of the grandfathered in NFA items? And they're just like, they have no idea.
They have no idea. Well, most people don't know anything. Most people are ignorant. There was a rationality to being ignorant in the sense that you could have no impact on these outcomes, and then the impact on you is usually going to be very small. Unfortunately, the government reach and the creep into every aspect of our life and everything has gotten so great that rationally ignorant balance, I feel like, is getting out of whack. You need to know more. It will affect your life in a way that it didn't affect you, and you need to be able to take action. What's interesting, increasing constitutional carry states, the choices are very clear now. Like, I'm going to Miami next week. I can't wait. The free state of Florida.
Yeah. Are they constitutional carry?
I don't think so. I don't know.
They passed that social media thing.
They passed the social media thing. It's totally wide open. It's going to be a great time. I'm so excited about going and getting out of DC. But my point is that, like, people are moving. I know a lot of people that have moved, people that are migrating, people that are literally taking their lives and putting them in a place where they're going to have representation that meets with their desires and their expectations. And John Robb, a great military strategist and analyst, he's talking very regularly, and Mike Anton as well from Claremont and Hillsdale, talking very clearly right now about, like, maybe we should be resorting the states. Maybe we should be moving counties from one state to another. Maybe we should be going eastern Oregon, joining greater Idaho. Maybe southwestern and western Virginia joining West Virginia. I'm sure there's a number of options.
But this is hyper polarization. So, yeah, people are moving, and we see in northern Colorado, in northern California, in eastern Oregon, they want to move their counties to other states. The state of Jefferson is one proposal, or greater Idaho would incorporate that as well. Then you have the one county in northern Colorado that wants to join, I think, Wyoming? Yeah. Because of, like, cattle ranching and stuff. That's just hyperpolarization.
There's precedent, though. This has happened before. Massachusetts used to be all of New England practically, and how many states are up there now? There was one other instance. West Virginia and Virginia, for example.
Now the Civil War.
It was pre.
Right. Well, no. It was the Civil War. So as the Civil War was kicking off, Western Virginia was like, nah, we don't want to be a part of that. So West Virginia was north and Virginia was south. Split the state in half.
Rearranging counties among states I don't think would take constitutional amendment or even federal approval based on the article that I read from Michael Anton just the other day.
I don't think that matters.
Why not?
I think if a county says we hereby decide that we the people choose different governance, the United States should oblige.
They should oblige, but there are rules to joining the union, and I think one of them is that you can't just make whole states out of nothing. So
no.
Right. So
joining Idaho.
This is just specifically about rearranging counties into existing states. I encourage that. Why not? It's happened before. Yeah. Representation of the people that you want. There's no reconciling these issues that we have. These are fundamentally opposed, diametrically opposed, irreconcilable philosophies and ideologies. And
that will precipitate full-on hot civil war, or union collapse. So right now, Oregon, the Eastern Oregon is not being represented by Portland and Eugene, right? And I guess is Vancouver part of Oregon? It's like north of Portland.
No, that's north of Seattle. Vancouver's in
No,
Washington.
no. There's a Vancouver in
Washington and in Canada.
Oh, it's Washington. I'm thinking of Seattle.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
north of Seattle.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, I believe. I don't know. We're only live on the air with hundreds of thousands of people. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first cop
Just
chopper.
spitball. I feel the same way about Jersey. Is that like all this Jersey legislation is basically Newark and like Jersey City. It's representing New York, the New York suburb, and all the rest of New Jersey is getting hit with this ridiculous legislation.
It is Washington, but it's just north of Portland, so we were both right.
Oh.
Yeah, Vancouver, Washington is just north of Portland. So,
That's
but anyway,
How often does that
these are it's very similar. It's basically the same metro. So, but it's not Oregon. So these eastern counties are not being represented. So they say we want to join Idaho, where we will be. Well, at the very least, there's some political pressure, right? Very little, but some. So the politicians that come out of Eastern Oregon still are like, well, we can't do absolutely anything we want because we have some pushback from Eastern Oregon, but for the most part, they're powerless to stop us. You get rid of them, and they're going to say, now we're completely unrestrained and have no reason to do any compromise at all, period, for any reason.
It's possible. They'd also have less electoral power.
Why would they have less electoral power?
Well, if we're not talking about blue counties adding themselves to blue states, we're talking about red counties.
Democrats would never win again.
We're talking about red counties subtracting themselves from blue states and adding them to red states, which would increase the electoral power of the red state, decrease the electoral power of the blue state, which means
they'll never let it happen.
If the Democrats have any power about it, they'll never let it happen. Although, all of a sudden, I've been struck by some great compromise that's going to involve Greater Idaho, Jefferson State, a Greater West Virginia, a District of Columbia State, Puerto Rico as a state. This is the way that politics gets done. Negotiation, compromise. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that comes down the road. But that would be an artifact of a functioning republic with negotiations and compromise.